I asked. Turns out you guys did want to see me suffer through the rest of the bosses of this game. And while somehow each fight feels worse than the next, nothing has ever prepared me for what happens at the end of this game. If you didn't know, this is a really tragic clone of Cuphead with worse gameplay, art, animation, and everything else. But I spent the $5 on it, beat the first 4 fights, so here is the rest of my story. So let's start with the cow boss. Surprise, the first phase consists of the cow going back and forth across the screen, while doing a very basic, albeit alluring animation. Now, phase 2 really is the one that throws a loop, because the cow will charge back and forth across the screen very quickly, which is just a huge mix-up we never saw coming. Great job, game, easy boss down. This actually concludes the farm area of the game, which was basically the tutorial zone. So let's move on to the desert land, starting off with phase 1 of Camel. I honestly love how the art style is so inconsistent in this game. It feels like every time you reach a new boss, the line art or the animation quality or even just the Google image search background assets reach a totally new low level of quality. I will say though, we finally get a first phase moveset mix-up with this boss. The camel moves horizontally in a repeating fashion across the screen. Like, you gotta respect its strut. The speed this camel goes at though makes it so you're constantly going in a figure 8 pattern, and because the boss's health always lasts for a ridiculous amount of time, I'm actually scared that these bosses are digging irreparable grooves into my brain lobes. What can I do though? Phase 2 is honestly surprisingly refreshing. Now the camel stays to one side of the screen and spits projectiles at you that go back and forth across the screen. Obviously the hitboxes are trash, but I will say getting the rhythm for this phase down was kind of fun? What's that? Random planetary body that might be the sun turns into the boss? Wacky! This boss hurls projectiles at you and can honestly be the first boss of any competent game with how basic it is. At least my lobe grooves earned a rest here. Rather easy boss, not too much rage. Now, next up we have the kangaroo. And wait a minute, is this just the first phase of Goopy? I mean, granted, at least the theme fits. Like, what are kangaroos known for? Jumping, punching, and 37% of all Australian crimes reported within the last decade. One of my favorite examples of how jank this game is, when the kangaroo punches, the hurtbox activates before the punch extends, so you have to crouch down before it even starts. I've S-ranked Goopy before, shouldn't be too hard, right? Except they add this stupid koala in a plane that drops bombs in a set pattern, so you have to memorize exactly where to stand and crouch whenever the roo is gonna punch, because the bombs drop too fast to be able to get out of the way from a crouch with a dash. As much as phase 1 was recognizable, nothing prepared me for phase 2. It literally goes helicopter mode on us with an engine whine sound effect in the back. And get this, it goes back and forth across the screen, which would be fine except of course this freaking koala has a hitbox, so you gotta thread the needle. Now phase 3 Roo decides it's time to Sonic the Hedgehog out of us, except at a surprisingly manageable speed. So it's really getting past the first 2 phases that was the hard part. Of course we get the boomerang from the Australian themed boss, and it's literally the same weapon as Roundabout from Cuphead except it's trash and it doesn't work. Man, these devs have really got their money's worth with the single line of code that makes bosses go back and forth. I will say for the first time in the game there's actually a good hitbox. When this lizard reaches the end of a screen it stops and sticks its tongue at you, which you can crouch under. Amazing design, really. What's that? You didn't think this lizard was good looking enough? That's okay, it turns into mom. Are those hot dogs? Why? Are they literally falling in the same pattern as the flower petals? Now this boss is just so lazy. It's just the same copy-paste bird, and they all try to hit you, but it's so easy to manipulate them. And why are the birds nerds? Well, because in phase 2 they carry books for some reason and drop them on you. But it's really in phase 3 that we finally start to realize the devs must have been high on helium, because just look at this moon sprite transition. Freaking melty cheese face moon chucking cheese at us. Like, this is actually a really cool and ugly design. Props to whichever artist they stole this asset from. Alright, we are a good bit into the game. It's finally time for bosses to start getting more complex. And by that I mean phase 1 of Cactus is it going back and forth across the screen in a horizontal manner. The dance animation is kind of fun. Phase 2 is where the mix-up happens. The cactus will stop in the center of the screen and do an Elastigirl slinky arms stretch across both sides of the screen. So you have to float on the edge of the center platform that's in every boss fight. Phase 3 is where it really gets wild though. Are you guys ready for this? The boss actually combines attacks. That's right, whenever the cactus reaches the sides of the screen, it stops and shoots 3 thorns at you. Then it goes to the center and does Slinky Arm. Absolutely wild gameplay and boss design. The world is not ready for this. Now, have you begun to notice a slight pattern in that each boss fight starts its fight by going back and forth across the screen? Well, after reaching Jungle Biome, we are finally going to leave all of that behind, with Ninja Sonic starting his first phase going from left to right and then back again. Honestly, surprising amount of animation work in this boss fight. Phase 2 and Ninja Sonic turns into a Dark Souls boss fight with this glaive that he starts swinging away at you while he goes helicopter mode. This would actually be a fun move to dodge if you didn't have to do it like 100 times to finally reach Phase 3. And Phase 3 is infuriating. He goes back and forth across the screen shooting projectiles down, and the only way to dodge is to stay right underneath him and then pass underneath when he turns. With such bad controls, you have to slowly flick the stick repeatedly and then pass underneath perfectly each time he turns or you are out. I honestly spent way too much time on this fight. The monkey boss is fairly basic, back and forth across the screen. Phase 2, Donkey Kong Jr. drops these barrels, but it's really easy to dodge. But then out of nowhere in Phase 3, the monkey whips out the Glock Nana and blasts you. The next boss is also packing some heat. Man, the jungle must be a bad neighborhood to live in. The bear is pretty much the same fight, except in Phase 2 the bear turns into Zeus and obliterates you with the power of thunder. Phase 3, and what, the bear ate Uncle Sam? Is this like a reference or something? I don't know, but we unalive Mr. America, so that happens, I guess. You also get the charge shot, and it's decent at least. Does okay damage. The pea shooter is still the king, but I found uses for the zap gun. All the other guns are just trash. Next fight, and yo! I know it's just left to right again, but did that tiger from Pooh get jacked? Now, this video is not sponsored by protein powder, but wait. It is actually Tiger from Pooh with that Phase 2 tail bounce. Now, if you're wondering, I have at this point become so good at dodging things moving left to right and right to left that I literally cannot take a hit. I am a god of gamers, a gamer god. This boss literally has nothing on me. At least in Phase 3, the tiger has like a strange back and forth charge movement. Now, if you weren't ready for Grandma Wolf to make her appearance in the non-typical horizontal attack, then guess what? Surprise, it's not Grandma Wolf, it's just a wolf in Grandma's clothing. Now somehow they coded it so the wolf goes left to right in a smaller area, so you have less room to dodge. No idea how they achieved such technical proficiency. But then we get to Phase 3 where the wolf does a little jig, then huffs and puffs and we actually have a new boss move, where you have to dodge spam one way or the other as the winds blow you left or right. So I guess this wolf is like the Red Riding Hood wolf that ate the grandma, but then also combines that with the huffing and puffing of the Three Little Pigs story. Crazy lore, just wait till my new theory video drops. Honestly though, I'm just glad this game finally gave the world some furry representation. Hey, it's the Enchanted Portals crossover event, and one of the most rage-inducing boss fights of the game. Phase 1 has a not Snoopy going back and forth across the screen, but the witch is shooting monkeys at you out of her wand. Yeah, I don't know, they're cute with a hat, I guess. Unfortunately, if you don't kill these monkeys right away, you will die, so you need to stay on the center platform and perfectly time your jump so that you land right when the monkey spawns, kill it, and then jump again before Pete spawns to throw his bomb. Did I mention Pete isn't RNG? Yeah, he spawns when you stand on the center platform for 3 seconds or longer. Phase 2 has the witch going back and forth shooting shotgun blasts while Not Snoopy shoots you with finger bullets. This phase takes literally forever. Now finally we've reached RNG phase. I have no idea how I beat this on the 3rd try. The witch just bends over and spawns ghosts out of this door, and they come out at random at different angles, and yeah, I literally just got lucky with this one. I don't know what to say. Now if you're wondering if this game is actually beatable, we've reached the part where I couldn't. Like, I spent an hour on Phase 1. If you do too much damage to these 2 flowers, the slow falling seeds they spawn will stay well into Phase 2, so you literally don't have room to dodge the Boop duo attacks. I actually had to resort to using the cheat code that gives you more damage to skip Phase 1 entirely. Now Phase 2 isn't terrible, you just have to manipulate where these 2 will throw their teeth of death so you have room to dodge their movement. Phase 3 is the same but more basic. You stand underneath the platform to bait the teeth, then jump to the left or right and dash back when they charge in. Side note, I have no idea what is and isn't copyright at this point, but we are almost to the end, so just bear with me. The Frankenstein boss is actually kind of cool. Like, we got this evil scientist and he drops this buzzsaw on you, while the ghosts of the Uncle Sam you oft charge you across the screen. In Phase 2, the scientist summons Frankenstein and then drops the saw, so you gotta time your jumps and dashes to get out of the way. And then in the final phase, the scientist drinks a potion that gets him swole and he struts across the screen while you shoot him. The pain. Ice King is just terrible. In a unique new pattern, this boss goes back and forth across the screen till eventually the speed is honestly frustrating. But in Phase 2, he does the huff and puff move, and his sprite is so big it doesn't actually fit correctly on the screen. Phase 3, he shoots birds at us. I don't know, it's trash. Now we finally reach the only good boss in the game, Santa Claus. First off, this betrayal looks pretty cursed, but instead of only going back and forth, he actually tries to stop and whip you in Phase 1. Then we hit the second phase, and I haven't laughed so hard in my entire life.
Rudolph!
See, Santa starts saying these voice lines in like the worst voice acting of all time, and each line is like an anime character declaring their moves.
A little bit of Christmas magic. Come, my little helper elves. Rudolph, come, my little helper elves. Come, my little helper elves. A little bit of Christmas
He can either summon Rudolph, elves, or Frosty the Snowman, who uses a voice line from the actual movie, it sounds like, but whatever.
Come, my little helper elves.
This was the hardest thing to beat without crying from laughter, because just like the voice lines chained together, it's so good.
Rudolph, a little bit of Christmas magic. A little bit of Christmas magic. Rudolph, a little bit of Christmas magic. Come, my little helper elves.
And then in Phase 3, Santa takes off into the sky in his U-Wing 17 bomber to start nuking you with presents. Not a hard boss, but equal parts hilarious and a bit cursed. After struggling through all of this, we've reached the end of the game. Surely at least the final boss will be unique and actually have a decent moveset variety and animations. Nope, it's just repeat bosses for the first 2 phases. And it's not tough, it just takes forever. Then the real meat of the fight, the real devil of Cuphead moment, is when Pete finally shows up, and get this, he has one move. Now you might think you can duck under him and avoid the hitbox, because of all that empty space beneath him. Nope, this attack seems undodgeable, but guys, I dodged it. I wasted so much time on the first 2 phases just to reach here and try to learn the timing, over and over, because it's all memorization based. This isn't reaction based. He has like an Elden Ring level of delay to this strike. But if you line up pixel perfect and time it pixel perfect, you can jump and dodge over this attack. It's possible. Doing it perfectly enough times to actually beat the boss, I did it. I wasted, I'm not going to reveal how much time doing this, but I finally did it. The game seems impossible to beat, but you can beat the final boss. And what's your reward? What do you get for all of this? What is the ending? Nothing. It's just Mickey and Minnie dancing to the credits. Final review, 10 out of 10.